Roundabout. Roundhouse. My railroad turn. Yeah, you gotta get this down.
Round table outside the roundhouse.
Yeah. Welcome back. When last we met, Cheryl was regaling us with her wonderful stories, and Jim also was, I guess, a catalyst in solving a problem with an effect that DB couldn't do right. I don't know which one now. I'm going to let Jim tell us about it.
Oh,
yes, sir. You remember Michael in the street? You showed us that picture.
Oh, I could share that. Let me come up here, and if I talk loud, it's because I'm totally deaf. So people talk back to me loud. First of all, I like to say this is a great group of seeing these folks again. It's been 27 years. Cheryl and I worked on that from day one all the way through, and it's been a little bit of life-changing for us. And Cheryl went on and did a lot of other things. We've done a lot of them up here since then, but I say that we, as people that worked for that setup, we were treated better there than the 20-plus years that we've done since then. The catering, the food, this man and his crew, people don't realize how hard the people work behind the scenes. 12 hours a day sometimes, all night long, new setup, we'll put the tracks, get the camera. Without you, there wouldn't be any film. It would be nothing. And it's just the people that manage, and I kind of watched how the crews were run. I had a unique position because I kind of did a little bit of everything. Whatever they asked, I'll go do it. And a lot of it would get in a different wardrobe and so forth. I lost my hat on one of them. I was wearing the kind of Western stuff. I left my hat on a table while we were having lunch. And I came back, my hat's gone. Well, we were a lot of local people. We know each other. I said, which one of you wicked people took my hat? Well, it turned out to be somebody from Props or whatever took the hat. Well, I thought, I'm going to have to pay for it. Well, it turned out they took that hat, and the festival scene where Doc got his hat shot off, that was a hat I was assigned. They put a bullet hole in it, and I thought, I'm going to see special effects. Yeah, it was a fish line over the top, and when he went bang, they pull it, and the hat went off, and that was my hat. I had another one, I didn't have to pay for one. Another little fun thing that I did was I seemed to be able to lean on something real, not the coffins, but lean and look cool, you know, in a Western thing. So I'm leaning on a scene, so I did a freeze frame. And if you all remember where Michael's coming into town, and you're getting a point of view from the merchants, and then he looks at people, and he finally gets up, and it's kind of quiet, and all of a sudden that stagecoach rushes through there, and he jumps back, lands in something, okay? I don't remember if you remember, but it was more like 20 takes to do that, back to one, back to one, back to one. The stuff they were using was was what they call, when you have horses and livestock, it's alfalfa cubes and Carol's syrup, I believe. Yeah. A little powdered...
we dyed them a little green.
Yeah. Well, they wanted it to stick to his shoes. Well, it didn't. If you know about horses, and we kind of all do up here, because everybody has one or two, you don't have to weed eat that way, you know. So they kept bringing him new shoes, and he had to do it over and over. And finally, I'm standing there, and I had, like I say, a tiny bit of leeway, because normally you're not supposed to bother people, but I kind of did. I went over, I said, can I help you with that? Well, what do you mean? I said, well, that ain't going to work. If you know about how the horses leave these things, they don't squish like you want. Let me fix it up. Okay. So I went down the street to the cattle, the Longhorns, and I got a big shovel full of cow stuff. I brought it back to them. I said, y'all from the city, aren't you? You don't know how this works. Here, mix that. And they mixed it up, Bob, and the next scene, down there, I think. Yeah, with your hand, fingernails, yeah. Then he jumps in it, and that's the scene you will see.
That story sounds like bullshit.
Thank
you, Jim.
Yeah, Jim.
Jim, let's hear for it.
The other one, like she said about the food, absolutely the best. There was one day we did have steak and lobster, and we were working as extras, and they took care of us that way. Oh, wow. Another one, One day they brought in, if you're familiar with a great big device, it has 2 axles and it pulls in with it. It's a smoker. They smoke meat products. They had 20, and I remember because I'm into food, 27 turkeys. They started in the morning, so we had our afternoon meal. So there was, and it wasn't Thanksgiving or anything special, but that's how well we were all treated there with those kind of things. I could go on for hours, but thank you all for coming to our community up here. We love to have you here in Railtown, and you guys coming back, and it's good seeing you.
Thank you for sharing, Jim.
And I don't know, I'm going to see you sometime, but I don't know. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
I myself, I only worked one day on part 3, and it was not even up here. So I don't have that much story to tell. In fact, there's probably more footage of what I did on that day that was taken by the neighbor down there at the McFly house when Marty gets back. So if you want to see more of my work, just look at the neighbor's footage on YouTube. I think Video Bob posted that. But I personally love the film, you know, having worked with Clint Eastwood, of course, that was fun, and growing up loving Westerns. But seeing in there in the bar, the Harry Carey Jr. and Pat Buttram and Dub Taylor was just such a treat, and it was so good, you know, in Who Framed Roger Rabbit, that Dean shot. They were the bullets. I think you had Slim Pickens as one of the bullets, too.
That was sort of a homage to Dr. Strangelove, wasn't it?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah.
It was such a treat, and so I love that scene in particular because I love these old cowboy character actors, and I was fortunate enough one night in Studio City to go to a restaurant, and there was Gene Autry with his sidekick, Pat Buttram, was there, and started having some happy hour drinks with Pat, and started getting some stories. And I'd just like to share this one little story that Pat told me that, now I was a big fan of Green Acres growing up, and he played Mr. Haney, the con artist sales guy, who I played last night in the park, only I didn't talk like this. He was saying that in between the takes, while we were shooting Green Acres, all we had to do was sit around and practice different things, and they started developing the art of the double take. He said they had enough time where they actually cataloged different moves, and he started demonstrating them. And so he said, well, this one is called the Roundabout Lucy, and it goes, and to see someone like Pat Buttram, who was in the business for 70 years, something like that, to just be in the presence of that amazing history and to have him share, you know, fun like that was a real reward for me. What other stories do we have from part 3?
Well, I can tell one about Dub Taylor.
Oh, please do.
You know, and he was, we all were in awe of these guys that had been so widely chosen because we were all, as we were talking about earlier, you know, making reference to the tradition of the Western movie. So to have those guys in there, and Dub of course was up in age, and he apparently had a little trouble with incontinence. That you know, when he had to go pee,
it was time.
It was time, and so when that first occurred, you know, and subsequently, it was sort of like, oh, Dub's got to, we'll get a car out here, we'll drive. He said, no, I'll take care of it. And he'd go out the back door of the saloon, stand on the tops of the stairs, and just pee over the stairs into the alley, right by the door, and then would go back in.
So he was kind of using realism in his acting.
It was just like he was in the Old West in the bar.
And where's the back door?
I don't know.
It's in the back.
There you go.
For any of you who might not have them sorted out, Dub Taylor is the one on this side
Camera
with
left.
the 2 puffs of white hair, and then Harry Carey Jr. is in the middle, and Pat Buttram is the one on this side with the hat on. But I think you all probably know Pat Buttram much more than you might know the other 2, even though they've each been in more movies than there actually are movies.
That's right.
It's very interesting.
You've never seen the John Wayne movie, you've seen Harry Carey Sr. and Jr.
Yeah.
Yeah, Kevin.
One of my favorite, the cinematography in part 3 is probably my favorite, but one of my favorite shots, even though it's not an Old West shot, is the opening shot at the Gamble House, where I think you guys used the Vista Glide and did a bunch of different takes with different sun, the
Right,
sun
so
rising.
the sun could come up.
So the sun just comes up in one shot. If you can talk about that, because I love that shot.
Well, it was sort of the introduction, and we were making reference to the fact that Doc's house, which is the Gamble House in Pasadena, it's a very famous green and green house owned by Mr. Gamble of Proctor. And
Proctor and what?
no,
Just Proctor and.
Jones.
Oh, Proctor Oncology.
Yeah. And so it's a, Bob wanted to make reference to remind people that, you know, Marty was going to see Doc at this big mansion, and which was earlier in the story before Doc lost all his money and
The mansion burns down.
yeah. So he wanted to see it drive up at night and then see the sun rise. And we had invented this system, Bob and myself and the ILM people invented this system of a dolly that would move the camera on a track and would be motorized. So it would move very slowly and smoothly. But then you could get it to repeat exactly, frame by frame, the same shot over and over. And we used it many times. There's a lot of the shots with Michael J. Fox and, you know, as Clint and Seamus, we used that thing. So our first use of
In
it.
the dinner, in the family dinner in part 2.
Yeah.
Oh, is that the Tondro
Yeah.
program?
Yeah.
So the Vista Glide was a program, an early computer program developed by a gentleman named Tondro, and it actually
Bill Tondro.
spliced the film inside the camera, so one actor can play multiple roles.
Yeah, and it was a very elaborate system. So we decided that was the perfect thing to do this great illusion, which was the camera moves along, and then when it stops and as it's moving, we could, you know, dissolve to different times, an hour later, 3 hours later, whatever, and give the illusion of the sun, you know, coming up. Was a simple use of a camera that became very complex when we were doing all the double character stuff. You know.
Yeah, it was a pain in the ass for the actors, especially because once we set the blocking, example in the McFly household of 2015, you know, past the T, it had to be so precise because, once again, the film's being spliced inside. So Michael is Marlene passing it to Marty Jr. or whatever it was, and we have probably 3-4 hours in between each shot because Michael would have to go get changed into the other character in makeup and wigs.
And if I could say, that was one of our biggest challenges. Someone asked me the other day what was one of the biggest challenges, and it just dawned on me, was when we were in pre-production, Johnny brought up and I about, what about the glassware when they're pouring things and they're drinking things? If there's different levels, and yeah, it might have even been used. It's got to be self-leveling. So everything that's got any liquid in on there that's picked up or moved, no matter what they did with it, when it settled back, absolutely leveled where it was at.
Oh, wow.
So nothing would pop. Otherwise, you'd be watching that scene, glass would be going like that. So very few people knew that. I'd forgotten it till probably 2015 at our Back to the Future first family back to get together. And I think that was your suggestion. You need to come up with a self-leveling glass. I don't think Kevin Pike was even there then. No. So we went to him and said, we've got to get this done. And we gave him ideas, but he did his thing and it worked.
Yeah.
But self-leveling.
And I think that's one of the great satisfactions out of doing that kind of stuff is when people say, oh my gosh, look, there's 2 Michaels. Oh, I'm involved in the story now. And they don't realize how much work so many people have to do. So much creativity is involved in, you know, doing things that are new. You know, when I worked on Roger Rabbit, there was stuff that had never been done before. Jurassic Park, the same thing, never been done before. Well, it's something as so-called simple as Back to the Future 3. You know, we were doing stuff that nobody had done before. And it was, you know, and that developing those kinds of subtleties are one of the things I think that makes it so kind of rewarding at the end, especially when, you know, there's some people who like the movie.
You think?
Yeah.
We don't know where they are yet.
You didn't have to.
Is my memory correct, excuse me, that we were the first ones on Back to the Future 1 to use that camera system?
Yeah.
No one had ever used it before.
Not even one.
On two.
Oh, and 2, I'm sorry, excuse me, I'm sorry, yeah.
And-
We were the
and you
first ones
thought-
to use that system.
They
ever.
thought they weren't going to have to use it so much on 3, but Seamus was originally going to be played by Crispin Glover. And so, since he didn't come back, and I didn't look anything like him, people would have said, who the heck is that?
Yeah.
As if Michael didn't have enough to do, give it to Michael and have to use the VistaGlide on all those. The shots with him now.
There's a shot, I just want to say, there's a shot at the end when Seamus comes to the bar that as I was watching it the other day, I was watching it and I realized for the first time in like 20-something years, I realized, oh, that's a double shot. Like I noticed all the other ones, I'm like, oh, okay, I get it. I've been watching it, and then all of a sudden I was like, I've been watching this scene all these years, and I never really thought about how this scene was a trick shot because it's so seamless, and it tricked me.
And subtle. A lot of times you don't want to make it like really a big showy thing. You know, you want it, you know, to just sort of blend in and become part of the storytelling.
Excellent.
Cool question. Cool question.
Any other questions for our panel?
Can I say one thing about Westerns? That you've done more, and now I've done a few. You are filthy and dirty and exhausted at the end of the day. But when you get back to your hotel, motel, or your home, and you shower, nice hot shower, followed up cold, you feel like you've done something. Horses, guns,
Yeah.
whiskey,
But
bar girls.
yeah,
You
exactly.
feel like you've done something.
But you don't have to live in that world all the time.
Exactly. You have
get to-
flushing toilets and
Exactly.
ovens and microwaves.
Yeah,
But don't you
exactly.
just feel like over any other kind of show, you really did something?
Yeah.
Just
Because
a
you're-
little more than a show on the stage.
Because you're creating a whole world and creating, you know, if you do it well, you're creating the illusion of looking back in time.
Well, what Back to the Future 3 did and what we did on Pale Rider is those sets were built practical. And that gives it an extra grounded sense of reality.
Absolutely. No Sykes outside or,
Yeah.
yeah.
And though, when it gets cold, I mean, there's no insulation or no protection really from the elements when, like we were on the top of that mountain.
And there's, you know, there's subtle stuff that hopefully you don't notice as you're watching. When Michael comes into the bar for the first time and meets the people, and you know, outside the window there are guys riding by and people walking, and what you don't hear is the fact that these people are all clustered over here and clustered over here, and the AED says, cue the school marm, cue the school marm, and they tap her, and she walks past the window, and then cue the horseman, and he rides past right on the exact cues because it has to match with each angle, and it looks like random stuff, but it's also very, very controlled and created by the assistant directing department.
Match it 20 times.
Exactly.
Or 30. 15 in rehearsal, another 20 shooting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Dean, I got one for you. Is there any shot that you did in part 3 that was cut that you wish wasn't?
That's a really good question. Let me see if I can evade that for you. Okay. When I was a young child.
It's a long story.
Yeah. You know, it's hard to say. Sometimes there are variations. I know, like in Back to the Future 2, the dinner table scene, you know, that starts on the table and it reveals all of those people. We played the whole scene through once. What shows up in the movie is a tilt up and reveal all those people and then cut to close-ups. So a lot of the very complex work we did with replicating all these people is on the proverbial cutting room floor, which is now the trash can of the computer. But it's you know, it's things like that that are sometimes, to me, distracting, because when I first saw the cut that was done, you know, before it's released or whatever, you know, you'd say, oh, I remember, this is gonna be really good, and where's the rest of it? You know, because, you know, you spend so much time with these glasses and stuff like that.
And it was one of the first times where I had to match every single thing on that table had to be in the exact same spot at all times. No matter where it was set down in that tape, which might vary,
Right.
had to go with script, find out where we matched to which cut. Because none of us, this was such a new thing, but I had marks, little marks on everything. Like that time with Eric Stoltz and the milk glass, he kept wanting to pull away.
Oh.
It's got to be on that mark, Eric.
Yeah.
But that was one thing. You could move the other plates around on that table.
Yeah.
That milk glass and that after you got the master in the 55 dinner scene when Eric, that milk glass where he wanted to put it, it would have jumped right out at you, kept jumping back and forth. You explained that to him very carefully. He was like, do what Bobby says. But, and he did. But that table, there wasn't one thing. If it was moved in that scene, it had to go back exactly.
Yeah.
I had little dots of different colored pens, permanent markers for things, where I'd usually use a piece of tape in the middle or something off the camera dolly or something.
And then there's the moment when Michael pours iced tea
Yes.
for his son, and nobody's ever passed an object or something across a split line, one duplicated person to another. We had to invent that, and I said, if he puts the glass down and if he takes his hand away for one frame, then they can change, but the glass has to be exactly. So as I'm thinking about this, I said, I know, we'll make a crow's foot, which is a little piece of wood like this, and then the glass would fit into it on the table exactly at the same spot every single time.
How'd I cover that, with a napkin in front of it?
Yeah, I
the
think-
plate was just something, I'd forgotten about it, thank you.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because you
But it
kept
was-
that and you had it down. Okay, now what am I, and Ray was looking through there going, little more, or you were actually setting up first.
Yeah.
Once again, these
Thank
days
you.
were 19 hours, 20,
Yeah.
22 hours, 26-hour long days.
Yeah. He's hanging upside
the
down
scenes
most
that
of
we're
the time.
talking about that we shot. And then we had a quick turnaround during this, maybe 7-8 hours off when we were back to work. But in that short time, we had an earthquake. Can you recreate the conversation
Yeah.
that morning when we came into the earthquake after everything had been locked down?
Yeah, one of the I think the main thing that I heard a lot was, oh crap. but besides that, well, we were very concerned because when you make a motion control setup, the track gets firmly put down, the dolly has to be exactly in the right spot, the camera has to be exact.